guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video we're going to be talking about weather, why it's important to have a weather forecast before we go on the water, and what we need to look out for in that weather forecast. So why do we need to know what the weather is doing? First of all, we need to know what clothing to wear. It's important that we dress correctly, where we're not going to be too hot and we're not going to be too cold. We also need to know what sail to use, whether we take a big sail, a small sail, or we can reef our sail, which makes the sail smaller and more manageable to use. We can take those reefs out if it's not as windy as we think it is on the water. We also need to know what direction the wind is coming from and if it's going to be difficult to launch and recover our boat, because we don't want to be going out when it's super wavy and the waves are going to break over the boat, making it really difficult to get back onto the trailer. Say hello. You need to be quiet. Sit down here. So, where do we get our weather forecast from then? In this day and age, it's easy to just go internet applications, whatever, on your phone, on your iPad, on the computer. It's easy to go straight for those, but there's a couple of other ones as well. So here we have a few different websites and apps that I like to use when I'm getting a forecast to go sailing. We have Windguru, XC Weather, Windy, the Met Office, BBC Weather, and PredictWind.com. This is another one to look at the lightning for the day, and it's also live, so you can see it coming in across the United Kingdom. As well as these apps, there is also TV forecasts, newspapers, and a radio forecast as well. This is a forecast from a newspaper. These generally are quite unreliable because the minute they are printed in the evening for the morning newspaper, they are generally out of date. It kind of gives us some general information for the north and the south of the country, and it kind of gives us generally what the weather is going to be doing and not in too much detail. This is a snippet from a TV forecast. I'm sure everybody has seen one of these. They are generally done around the same time as the news. This gives a good visual picture of what it's doing throughout the day with the radar and the clouds on top of it. Our next one is radio. So there are a couple of different ones. You can have a general one on your local news station or on something like Heart or wherever, and you get a shipping forecast which is broadcast on BBC Radio 4. A shipping forecast is broken up into these areas of the United Kingdom. You will hear them describe these areas and what the weather is doing. This is a shipping forecast glossary. It's a marine forecast that has a number of different terms. This first one is the gale warnings, then it is the time period, then the visibility, then the movement of the pressure systems and the definitions, pressure tendencies in station reports, wind direction, and the last but not least, the sea state. So, going back to my original question, where do we get a weather forecast from them? We can use our apps and our websites. We can listen to the radio and use the shipping reports. We can have a TV forecast, and we can have newspaper as well. The weather can change all the time. It's being constantly updated, so having a forecast online is great for knowing what's going on and the most up-to-date information. So once you've found your weather forecast, you need to have a look for some key information from this. We need to look for the wind speed and the direction, the temperature of the day, whether it's going to be sunny, cloudy, rainy, that sort of thing, the visibility including fog and mist, and also lightning as well. We never want to be caught out in a lightning storm. I'm just going to show you a quick screen recording now of the apps I use on my iPad, what they look like and what to look out for in those apps. This is an app and website called PredictWind.com. It shows what the weather is doing throughout the day, and it also shows the swell and the tide as well. This is another section of the Predict Wind app. It shows it all nicely hour by hour. You can see all the different categories down the side as well. This is a visual representation of the wind direction and strength overlaid onto a map. At the bottom it has the different colours representing the knots of wind from the Beaufort scale. This is an app called Windy.com. It's also online. I've just dropped a pin somewhere where we normally sail, and it shows the speed and the direction throughout the days. I have just clicked onto sea temperature, but there's lots of different categories that you can select through on the side. This is the BBC. It's not the greatest for the wind and the direction and the speed, but it is good for knowing what the weather's going to be, whether it's going to be sunny or rainy or cloudy. This is the Met Office, where the BBC gets all their information from. It's a really good one for showing different things: UV forecast, air pollution, pressure, humidity, visibility. Breaks it down nicely. It also shows the precipitation, the feel-like temperature and the wind as well. XE Weather is another one we use sometimes just to give a comparison to all the other different ones. When we're talking about direction of wind, it's not just sort of north, south, east or west. It is also whether the wind is coming from a specific direction in relation to the shore. So this is my square island in the middle. Our wind is always blowing this way down the paper. If we were standing on the beach here, we'd call this wind direction on the shore because the wind is blowing on the shore. If we were standing on this beach down here, we'd call this direction offshore because the wind is blowing off the shore. If we were standing on either side of the island here, the wind would be blowing across the shore, so this direction is called cross shore. If we were standing on this beach and the wind is blowing onto the shore, it's going to feel a little bit more windier than if we were standing on this beach and it was an offshore wind. This is because the wind is blowing directly into our faces. The waves are also going to look a lot bigger as well because they are coming towards us. If we were standing on an offshore beach, we wouldn't get as much wind here because there are trees and buildings and whatever on this land that are going to cause a shadow just in the shallows here. If we were standing on a cross shore, we'd feel how windy the wind is because it's got no obstacles in the way. It's also really important to note that when we have an onshore wind, the waves are generally bigger as well. An offshore wind is harder to get back onto the beach because you're going to be zigzagging into the wind to get back to the beach. Cross shore is nice and easy because we can go in and out all day long on a beam reach and we're going to have no troubles. Onshore we're going to have to zigzag out and then go on a run back in or a training run or a broad reach. Once we've found our forecast from our weather reports, it is then time to check that that's correct when we get to the beach. So how do we find our wind direction? Let's have a little look on the beach of what we can see around us to help us find out what that is. Another way of finding out the direction is if the wind is blowing onto your face and you can feel the wind on either ear, that's the direction. When I can feel the winds on the insides of my hands and my ears, I know that that is pretty much where our wind is coming from. It also is good to find out where our no-go zone is if we're sailing. If the wind is coming from here, 45 degrees is about roughly where our ears come out to. Once we found our direction of the wind, we now need to find out what the speed is. So from our forecast, we can take those numbers that are predicted and we can transfer that to something called the Beaufort scale. This is what sailors use to work out what the wind is doing throughout the day. It gives a visual description of what the sea state is and how that can transfer into a number. This is the Beaufort scale. On the left hand side you have the forces from 0 to 12. In the middle you have the wind in miles an hour, knots and kilometres an hour. And on the right hand side you have a description, which is really good if you don't have an exact number. I'm now going to show you some videos that I have taken when I've been on the water or on the beach, of what those waves look like and what they relate to on the Beaufort scale, using the force and using the description. We can also use a little device called an anemometer. I'll post a picture here next. In this video we have had a look at where to find a forecast, what to look for in a forecast, how to find the direction and the speed of the wind on the beach or on the water. I hope you found this video useful and you can apply this to where you sail. This is only very basic information of what you need to know before you go sailing. Thank you very much for watching today's video. Give it a big thumbs up, hit the big red subscribe button. Why can I never say that? Hit the big red subscribe button down below and I'll see you next time. Bye!